Whether you're a suburban athlete or an Olympic champion, you've got to work hard to get results. We've put over 15 years' experience into developing Active Man, combining vitamins, minerals and proteins. Active Man helps provide you with the nutrients you need to optimize performance and assist recovery. Discover the Active Man range, now available. Active Man, power up.
Welcome to series number 3 of the Power Progress podcast, and I have an amazing guest speaker, and he'll go into detail about exactly what he does right now. But we met in 2015, and this is Charlie. How you doing, mate? You good?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Thanks for having me on the show, Nathan.
Yeah, no bother. Yeah, so we're having an open conversation before we started this, and we'll go into slowly what the subject is. But let's start when we met, and that was UK Up show, wasn't it?
Yeah. So UK UP. I was lucky enough to be relatively good friends with the owners of that federation, and it's not something that I wasn't, particularly aware of, the sort of bodybuilding industry. At one point, I used to think the bodybuilding was purely for huge guys, the Ronnie Coleman of this world, the Dorian Yates, and it's a path I never was particularly interested in. But I was always interested in the gym. I had a nutrition business, and there was this niche growing, wasn't there, which was men's physique, fitness modeling, that sort of stuff, but I'd not paid that much attention to it. I was a powerlifter, Thai boxer, and I helped people get into general shape, but those friends of mine said, Charlie, you'd be perfect for this, so you should give it a go. I turned up to the posing camp that they had, I think it was 4 weeks before the show, and I thought, well, I'll turn up and find out what this is all about. And on that day, I picked up the posing relatively quickly. People were telling me I was in great shape, and they were talking about doing the show, and they basically twisted my arm into doing the show. So with only 4 weeks work, although I was already in shape, with only 4 weeks preparation time, I learnt the posing, got myself into shape for the show, and on the day we met there, and our story unfolds from there.
It was quite funny because I just done, I think it was around about 6 weeks before that, I'd done Pure Elite and I won the beach body category out of 27. But I had no intention doing any other shows that year. So I remember I went on a complete, I'm going to be honest, I went on a binge, I went on holiday and all sorts. And then I spotted the show, and probably naivety of mine, I'd say, I decided to go in for it. But I only decided 2 weeks before. And it's amazing what weight you put on in a space of time when you don't track anything and you just go off the rails. So anyway, I tried to go for it. And I remember on that day, when I reflect back, I was probably out of shape to be on stage. And I weren't prepared either. And I remember I forgot everything because I was very rushed. And you actually lent me your white shorts, didn't you, at the time?
Yeah, so I brought a few pairs of trunks along. So I didn't really know much about it. So I just bought a few pairs on eBay, and I had a pair spare. And one of the guys asked me if I had any spare. You needed some, and that's how we met. So I lent you those trunks, bright white trunks, brand new, and you got covered in tan. You sweated. You handed them back to me afterwards. There was brown stains all over them, and I think they've pretty much remained like that ever since. It's how we got to know each other, isn't
it? Yeah, and obviously we got to know each other a bit more because obviously we've done a few more shows after that. I mean, I remember you was smashing one show after next. But what I found really insightful, that there was a lot more to you. You actually had a really established business beforehand, didn't you?
Yeah. So, like I say, I only really got into the competing things because it seemed opportunistic, because I was in a good position to do it already. I was actually very focused on my business prior to that. But just, through timing, I was in the process of leaving that business at the time. It was a nutrition business, but it was more of a retail business. So we had a nutrition arm to that business. We sold, food products to the health and fitness industry. And within that, we did some coaching as well. So I implemented some coaching. So we'd sell people food, and then we would give them a training plan and a nutrition plan so they could get themselves in shape. And the reason I got into shape in the first place, I went from fairly out of shape powerlifter, and I thought, I'll show how good these products are by getting shredded. And I called it the 30-day challenge. And in 30 days, I went from that position as a slightly out of shape powerlifter to pretty shredded, and I did a photo shoot. And it was then that people were like, Charlie, you should compete. So yeah, I turned up at that at a bit of a junction in my life where I'd split up with my partner fairly shortly before. I'd separated from my business and I'd been given a payout. So I had a little bit of leeway of time to implement the next thing. And this seemed like a good idea to do in that gap, to bridge the gap. I had no idea how I was going to do. I just did it to take part. But as the competition got closer and closer, you start thinking, well, actually, I think I can do pretty well in this. And I don't think I'm just doing it to take part. Actually, I think I want to win. And then it got to the day, that first show. And then, you look around, you don't really know. You can't look in the mirror and see what you truly look like. So you can't compare. But I was like, people were telling me I was looking good and that I'm gonna win. And it turned out I did. And I won two categories that day. And because of that success, there was the Miami Pro the week after. And, somebody suggested I did the Miami Pro. And when I got to the Miami Pro, you were one of the people that said to me, have you heard about Pure Elite? You should do Pure Elite as well. So it's sent on this roller coaster ride of me going to these shows, winning shows, getting pro cards. And I still had no clue what this stuff was, but I knew there was opportunity in it. If you're successful in something, and there's a lot of people watching, there was 1,000 people in the audience each time we did it, 300 competitors. I knew if there's that many people watching this stuff, there's exposure. I saw that people had won in previous years that had, hundreds of thousands of followers. And I thought, there is an opportunity for my next direction here. So I just carried on going with it. I didn't know what a fitness model was. It seemed like I was doing better in fitness model than physique. I won some physique stuff as well, but people were telling me a fitness model is what I was. And I was very much like, what is a fitness model? what do I do with this new title that I've got? But like I say, anywhere where there's eyes on you and there's exposure and there's people following that journey and you're inspiring, the general public who go to the gym who may not ever have any intention of competing, but they're watching this and thinking, oh, maybe I could do that one day. I knew there was a future in it. So we kind of carried on that path together, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think what's really interesting, and you may want to cover this, is there a lot of key principles what you took from your old business into this new business at the time, which is obviously not so new now?
Well, so I briefly touched on the fact that when I set up this nutrition business, as just a method of, getting people to have success with that food, we introduced a coaching arm. So we would say, you buy the food, it was £200 for a package of food, and that food would last you the month. And you eat that food, and we would guide you on how much food to eat. So, to that you would add a bowl of oats, this, that, and the other. And I would set people's macros based on their activity and then, their training, that sort of stuff. And I would guide them to get the best success they can within that 30 days. Now, obviously, I was a director of the company, but I did that myself because I had understanding nutrition. I've done some qualifications, and it was only when I stepped, because I did that for about a few months, built that section of the business up, and then employed somebody who would then do the meal plans and do the coaching. But, a year later, I was still getting messages from people saying, you changed my life during that period, Charlie. I had signed up for this. I had one job. I did this 30-day challenge, and I've changed directions, gone into new career paths, new confidence, new everything. Because as a coach, when you give somebody that inner confidence in themselves and the confidence that they can achieve something they set out to do, they then go on to succeed in other areas of life, promotions, all that sort of stuff. So I was still getting messages at that point, a year down the line, of people saying, thank you, Charlie, you changed my life. And I thought, actually, yes, this company made money and my goal was to make money. But it's the fulfillment from that really I wanted to continue in the path of. So that's why I started getting into coaching. I thought, well, I'll set up as a coach. And I never did it to get rich. I never did it to make money. I just wanted to help people. And I wanted that feeling of helping people. And I think that's one of the reasons I've had success, because I've been passionate about this my whole life. And because I genuinely want to help people and I have a good understanding and can do a good job. There's a saying that if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want. And that's my ethos within coaching. All the time I might spend on marketing, promotion, anything that I spend all that time, double that effort down on helping the people that I'm employed to help, and they will tell the world. And that's pretty much how it goes, So that's, I would say, one of the main ethoses. And it's strange that actually it has become a successful business. And although money wasn't the object, money has come, and I built authority off the back of the passion and the genuine want to help people. So that's one of the main things. I think everybody, whether, in their job, in their business, whatever it may be, should aim to do a job that gives them true fulfillment and that they get satisfaction out of. That way they're going to give that 100%. don't get me wrong, people have to start at the bottom. I've had time, working in Little Chef, giving out food, and you got your eye on something in the future. There's an element of sales in every job, which everybody might not enjoy. And I've had jobs in the past where, in my younger days, I started off as a car salesman, and I've got that ability to kind of help people out. And I know that I'm giving an amazing service, and I can sit in front of somebody and deliver the information about what I do adequately so that they sign up, and then I can help that person. So don't get me wrong, there's lots of parts of the job, that you're not necessarily passionate about, and you have to start at the bottom. But I think that's a key element of any business is the passion to actually, help people and the fulfillment.
Yeah, I think certainly with that industry of helping others, I think that's where the passion has to be, that you actually have it there, that you want to help. Otherwise, you're in the wrong industry in the first place. The other interesting bit is, like you said, even on the original one, you have to get all the bones in place at the beginning before you can outsource it. And obviously, you're starting to do that with this business now, am I right?
Yeah. So like you said, I had a successful business, retailing food into gyms and supermarkets and all that sort of stuff. But I still stepped back from that. I had staff in place for that. I focused on growing the coaching arm of the business until it was sustained. And then I brought somebody and trained it up, and then I stepped back again. And I think that's something you repeat in any business if you want to make it a big, successful business. And as you say, I've just taken on a coach who you probably know, Chris Robinson, equally qualified as I am. He's been coaching as long as I am. He's an amazing coach. He's had, in the same way as I've had people who've become champions, I've had people who've got pro cards, I've had people who've gone on to win pro shows, people who've become overall champions across all of the federations. He's done that exact same thing. But there are areas of the business that he doesn't necessarily enjoy. He doesn't necessarily enjoy, talking on camera. He doesn't necessarily enjoy the sales side of things, and he doesn't, the admin and the accounts and all that sort of stuff. So by bringing him into the business as equally qualified as me, I can then hand him some clients for him to work in, which is his genius zone. Everybody should be working in their genius zone and handing off the jobs that's not so much in their genius zone. He can then focus on truly fulfilling that person's dreams. So whereas, for instance, I do Zoom call with people to kick off the relationship, but then on an ongoing basis, I don't really do Zoom calls. It's done through an app. Now that I've got him on board, if somebody's struggling, they can now book an unstuck call to have a Zoom call. So I'm actually expanding how much service people are getting, and make sure that nobody ever falls through the cracks, because it's very easy for people to focus on the high performing clients, and people can fall through the cracks, and you have to have systems in place to help with that. And like I say, you should never do a job or hand over a job that you've not done at some point yourself. You should know every area of the business to the very finest detail, and then you've got to work really, really closely with that person, nurture that role, make sure that they get the same or more service from him. And then that can be, I'll be able to gradually step back from the clients that he's working with. I obviously still doing all the high profile, the competition prep people, but there's certain people that he's more suited to coaching. And during that initial call that I have with people, we're assessing where they belong. And then we're having a process where they're getting coached by both of us. And then it'll kind of go in more in direction of one or the other. And I think that's an important part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's interesting because personality traits come into it, and there might be some people who generally will get on with you better than Chris. So that's where it can work so well. Is there any other parts of the business where you've outsourced?
So I had a PA for a little while who was my girlfriend. She wanted her independence and got her own job now, but that was really, really useful. So she helped me with lots of little tasks. I think the key thing to make sure is that I mentioned genius zone. It can be an egotistical way of looking at it, but I think if you just look at, think about the things that you do best and only really you can do. And then any other little tasks someone else should be doing. Things like follow-up emails, payment processing, accounts, administration, general bits and pieces. The more of that you can hand over to somebody else. I then focus mainly on setting up plans, doing check-ins, replying to messages of my clients. So focusing on the people who really need my help. And, all of the tasks can be handed over. And I think by streamlining things that way, you can help more people, because people look at my team and they think, how on earth can he handle that many people? It's not. I know coaches who've got 200 clients. I don't think that's possible. I don't think they're giving them through the right level of service. But I can handle them out. I've got by making sure that all I do is check-ins, all I do is messages, all I do is setting up plans, and then I do the Zoom calls as well. And I think by streamlining it to just that, people will be surprised how many tasks in a day they are doing that is not really the core of their business that they're fully trained to do. I know people have virtual assistants, personal assistants, all that sort of thing. People supporting, people in Facebook groups, for instance. So I've got a Facebook group that's very, very interactive. People ask questions in there. People can ask me a question directly, and that's important. If it's about their plan specifically or personal to them, it's important they ask that directly. However, Facebook groups are great for generic questions, because quite often people will ask a question that's relevant to everybody else in the group, but they might not have even thought of that question. So they're all going to learn from that. And by doing it within the Facebook group, it enables me to do something like a video reply. So they might ask on the science behind something. So for instance, why we choose protein and fats at some times and protein and carbs at other times, that sort of thing. And I can do a 5-minute reply explaining the science behind that. Because if people are empowered with the understanding of, for instance, say I say to somebody, okay, have eggs for breakfast, and that's protein and fats. There is a scientific reason why it's beneficial to start the day with protein and fats, as opposed to carbs, because carbs is your primary source, fuel source. If you start the day on carbohydrates, your body is naturally going to want to use that primary source of carbohydrates. If you then switch to fats later on the day, your body struggles to switch to fat as a fuel source, which makes you less efficient. So it's called metabolic flexibility. Yeah. Now, if I just say to people, have eggs for breakfast, and they like a bowl of porridge, they might be disinclined to do it. However, if you educate that person on it, they then can make a conscious decision whether they want to optimize on the science, or if they enjoy oats that much that they want to have the porridge anyway. And I think that's why it's important to educate everybody as a whole. And using the Facebook group minimizes the questions, you're getting the direct messages, helps people as a whole, everybody gets better together. And I think it's always important to do. Make sure you're doing things for your clients in a way that not just reduces time for you, but it's genuinely beneficial for them. Because everything I implement in my program is to genuinely benefit them. And if it benefits me as well, and gives me less admin time, then all the better.
Yeah, definitely. So it's all about micromanaging, and also the skills where you lie is where you want to focus more, because if you're poor doing all the other little jobs where you can do, but you're not as, if you like, there could be someone else who can do that better, then you're wasting your energy output, if you like, on the things that really matter. And I totally get that. The bit what I want to ask now, which I found interesting, because I remember the bit when you was shown the different logos, and originally you was Charlie's Angels. What made you make that decision to change it to Pro Physiques?
So it was Charlie Garforth Fitness, and then hashtag Angels. So it was a struggle for a long time. I always sat wrongly with me that the emphasis was always on me, because I guide people, but really they're the ones doing the work. You know what I mean? They're the ones putting the grind in. They're the ones, whenever my clients thank me all the time, they write social media posts about me all the time. And I'm always very quick to say, thank you, but you did this, And I want an ethos where it's a team of athletes or a team of people making transformations to their lives. And they're the ones that I want to promote, not necessarily me, myself. And obviously, as well as that, so in part, it's to congratulate my clients and to reward them and say, this is us as a team. But it's also obviously because bringing people like Chris on as a coach within the team, and there's going to be more, it's a better as a brand. We are Pro Physiques. Not me, it's we. So that's one of the reasons for it. And I think, so that was one of the reasons. People probably maybe got a test, a glimpse of the future when they saw that it was going to be working more towards a team of coaches, a team of athletes, a team of people making transformations to their lives.
Do you think when it comes to name, it was about timing as well? Like, do you think it's important that you used your name at the beginning to build it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I built some profile. And, back in those early days, when I got to the end of that competing season, I did 4 shows in 6 weeks, and I'd won God knows how many trophies, and, loads of trophies. I'd got a bunch of titles, and I stepped away, and it was about, okay, what do I do with this success? Now, a lot of people, they'll step on stage and they'll think that then the fame and the glory comes to them. It doesn't. Those wins and those trophies and those titles are a tool for you to use and go out into the world and and get exposure. So whereas a lot of people who we competed with, they went into off seasons, got fat, relaxed. I thought to myself, well, I'm going to use this now. So I went and did photo shoot after photo shoot after photo shoot. I got exposure any way I could. I focused on growing my Instagram account, growing my social media, and I worked hard. during that point. I didn't see it as that was the win. I saw this as an opportunity that starts now, the day that I walked off stage for the last time that year. And I worked my ass off, as you might have seen. I went to the best photographers. I got exposure. I ended up on book covers. I did all that sort of stuff, which people might not believe. 5 years, 5 years on, I use that exposure, and 7 years on it is, and to get more exposure, so that when it came around to the next season, which was April 2016, I walked on stage and people knew my name at that point. And that was, so at that point, you build your name. You've got, first and foremost, you've got to build your name, and you've got to build a reputation. And I see people go straight in with a brand, and it just gets lost in the noise. If you've got a relatively small number of followers and a relatively small client base, if you just have a brand name at that point, nobody will remember it. And they'll see your transformation photos and the brand in the corner, but they won't necessarily remember it. But in the short term, people relate to human beings. They relate to faces. They get to know people. They think, I like that person. But obviously myself, I've grown this business to a big enough scale where I think it is applicable to change it to a brand. Would you agree?
I would do, and you're right. I could see it was naturally heading towards that, with how you was changing slightly the logo and how it was all going. It almost got to the point where your name didn't feel right for it anymore. That's how I felt following you. So when you did change it, I was like, that feels right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people who try and do that too early will struggle. So everything's always about timing in business, as you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything you want to leave the listener with?
No, just, if you've enjoyed what we talked about today, then give me a follow on any of the social media channels. You'll see Pro Physiques on Instagram. You'll see Charlie Garforth on Instagram, Facebook. Anyone got any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, I've really enjoyed coming on, and I hope maybe we can do it again in the future.
I'd love to do that,
it's
mate.
been too long.
To be honest, I've really enjoyed just catching up with you. It's been a while.
Competition again?
Highly likely I'm going to be, if it's not April, it'll be the one a bit later, but I'm planning definitely for April at the moment, but let's see how things pan out. I certainly feel like I'll be in condition for it. It's just whether that timing falls right with other things I have planned. So let's see what happens with it.
Well, I look forward to it. I'll be there either way.
See you soon, mate.
Thanks again.